everyone loves Disney villains. Regardless of how you feel about the movies themselves, audiences can't help but fall in love with these devious drawings. But while we love them, it's not too common for the characters in the movies to feel the same way. More often than not, Disney villains have to rely on their troublesome sidekicks for companionship. And even then, these relationships are, how do we say, less than adequate? But what if things were a little different? What if Disney villains were able to interact with those from other films? Which ones would have genuinely great friendships? Join us as we look at various pairs of villains, both the obvious and the unlikely, as they make the journey from evil fiends to best friends. I'm Caleb with Wicked Binge, and this is which Disney villains would be BFFs. Kicking things off with a pretty obvious pairing, we think Mother Gothel from Tangled and Snow White's evil queen are two characters that could get along very well. For starters, the two are alike in a lot of ways. Both are villains obsessed with beauty, so much so that they have no problem harming others if they see them as something that will stand in the way of being the most beautiful.
Snow White.
The Queen and Gothel would probably find common ground quickly because of this. We could definitely see them having a chat over their failed plans and offering suggestions to the other on how they could have better disposed of their foes. We also believe that Mother Gothel would be particularly infatuated with the Evil Queen's proficiency in magic, observing it as a possible cure for her aging. This could potentially cause a rift in the friendship, but when we're talking about Disney villains of all people being friends, we kind of assume things like that are bound to happen. Between their similar stories and desires, Mother Gothel and the Evil Queen appear to be an easy choice for BFF material, and the perfect candidates to start this list off. Next up is one that isn't just a simple fan theory. This one is actually backed up by canon. That is, if you count the animated series canon. That's right, it's time to talk about JAFAR and Hades. In the Hercules animated series, there was a crossover with Aladdin, which had its own series running simultaneously. This crossover brought Hades and JAFAR together, and they get along way better than you would think. While a lot of villain team-ups end up with one of them betraying the other, Hades and JAFAR work alongside each other until their inevitable defeat comes around. Hades even offers JAFAR a significant place in his future domain, further showing the surprising strength of this relationship.
Here's the trade-off. You give up your strength for about 24 hours.
While their relationship might seem strange, there is a lot that they have in common. Both are power-hungry maniacs who want to rule over all who oppose them. JAFAR wants to take Agrabah, while Hades is after Greece. Even in this series did they see these similarities, which is what helps begin their friendship. JAFAR himself wanted godlike power in the first film anyway, so seeing him side by side with an actual god feels like a natural progression of his character. The two would probably continue what they did in the series if they continued their friendship, making attempts at taking out the other's nemesis under the belief that they're better equipped to do it. JAFAR may also gain more powers during his partnership with Hades, which he could very well use to usurp Hades, but since he didn't do this in this series, it might be less likely that he'd do this than you'd think. Overall, when you look at their similar goals, complementary attitudes, and crossover appearance together, it's a no-brainer that these two would be the best of friends. Taking a trip to lands far and wide is the next duo on our list, ROURKE from Atlantis and CLAYTON from Tarzan. Yet again, this is a matchup that seems way too obvious to exclude from this list. With CLAYTON and ROURKE, there's far more that they have in common than not. In their respective films, both villains seem like well-mannered and charismatic leaders on an expedition to foreign territory. However, shortly after their arrival, their true colors begin to appear. both of which involve a plan to get rid of everyone and everything that makes this place what it is.
I remember you.
The two are also excellent fighters, being skilled at everything from guns to fisticuffs. Another interesting thing to note is that the two characters also exist relatively close together on the timeline. While Atlantis takes place sometime in 1914, Tarzan is only a few years before that. So, the idea that the two actually did know each other might be true, so long as you buy into the idea that every Disney film is canon. If a friendship did form between the two, we could see them as explorers looking all across the world for uncharted territory. They could uncover lost artifacts, endangered species, and plenty of other oddities in their voyages. Of course, it's unlikely anything good would come out of their expeditions, but we can at least see them getting along with each other. With how annoyed both characters were in the films when others were around, they would most definitely find solace in the fact that they are so much alike. So, while they might not be Lewis and Clark, these soldiers would absolutely be some of the most notable explorers of their time. What's better than one villainess obsessed with fame? Why, how about two villainesses obsessed with fame? And when it comes to fame, beauty, and the like, nobody does it better than Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians and Madame Medusa from The Rescuers. As we said, these two villains are very much alike in their desire for the superficial. Be it looks or money, both will do everything in their power to achieve their goals. And they care little for anyone who gets in the way, even if that anyone is a dog or a child. Cruella and Medusa's relationship would likely come in the form of both villains showing the other their hobbies.
I want that diamond.
Imagine Madame Medusa wearing one of Cruella's furs, or Medusa showing Cruella the allure of rare diamonds. They would also get along via their common ground of having some rather lackluster lackeys, a subject that would no doubt be a great source of laughs for the two. The only thing we think might cause for concern in regards to their relationship relates to Medusa's two crocodiles, Brutus and Nero. While Medusa loves them, Cruella may detest them, or even see them as more fodder for her coats. That could give Medusa pause, but considering how hungry she is for fortune, as well as the fact that the crocodiles didn't particularly seem to care for her, she may very well let it slide. Regardless, if there was ever a pair of Disney villains that seemed like they were made to complement each other, it would be these two. It's time for a hunt. Next, we think Percival C. McLeach of The Rescuers Down Under and Beauty and the Beast Gaston would make a great pair. Like a few others on this list, the friendship formed here would come as a result of their shared professions. Both are hunters, and they are pretty egotistical ones at that. They both think of themselves as big shots and look down on everyone else as inferior beings. We could see the two going on plenty of adventures, hunting everything from the usual prey to endangered species. However, we could also see some strain happening in their relationship. And what could that strain come from other than Gaston's giant ego? Yes, while McLeach might be egotistical, his ego is nowhere near as bad as Gaston's. Gaston hunts only to prove that he's the manliest man alive, while Percival does it for fame and fortune. These differing motives could cause the two to clash, but we also believe it could help strengthen their partnership. While Gaston's head is up in the clouds, McLeach is more level-headed, which would help bring him down a bit. That could potentially make Gaston a far more focused and dangerous hunter than he ever was in the film. A friendship between Gaston and McLeach might have its awkward moments and conflicts, but with some help, we think they have what it takes to become the most skilled hunters in the field. While most of the friendships we've analyzed today seem like relatively obvious picks, how about we do one that's a bit stranger? If strange is what you desire, look no further than Scar from The Lion King and King Candy from Wreck-It Ralph. Yes, it's definitely a strange matchup, but as we delve into it, we think you will agree with us in due time. Both Scar and King Candy, otherwise known as Turbo, are obsessed with power. They will even take over land ruled by others to satisfy this thirst.
The dawning of a new era.
In Turbo's case, he rewrites the code to Sugar Rush, making himself its new ruler and leaving Vanellope as little more than a glitch. In the case of Scar, he takes over the Pride Lands after dispatching its king, his own brother Mufasa. We could easily see the two becoming friends over their desire for power, pondering over ways and means to take over other areas. The two are also great at deception. Scar manipulated pretty much everyone into thinking he had nothing to do with Mufasa's death, while King Candy made sure nobody remembered Vanellope as the true ruler. This could lead one of the two into trying to usurp the other, but we still think they would remain on friendly terms at least for a time. Remember, Scar is a lion. If we were in King Candy's shoes, we probably wouldn't be in a rush to mess with him. Speaking of which, Scar's more menacing demeanor could even serve to strengthen Turbo's own rule. While King Candy tried to look like a charming leader, Scar's lack of care for others would ensure that Sugar Rush would belong to them and them alone. That could cause the two to butt heads, but since King Candy is merely putting on a facade, we believe he would absolutely go along with Scar's methods. In conclusion, while Lions and Candy might not seem like they'd go together well, when you look at their similarities and how they could benefit the other, these are two rulers that would have a truly historic reign. Last but certainly not least, let's talk about two witches. Who else could we be discussing other than Ursula and the Mad Madam Mim? Like others we've covered today, these two have some pretty apparent similarities that would benefit a friendship. Both are witches who have great skills at using magic, but are not so great at keeping their word. However, unlike some of the other BFFs we have looked at, we actually think there would be a little friction between Mim and Ursula. There are a lot of interesting ways we think their relationship could go. The two could share spells and tricks, helping the other achieve whatever goals they are working towards. They could get into wizard duels with both participants trying to find ways to cheat that the other would not expect.
I might be willing to make an exchange.
And, of course, they could aid each other in their evil plots, finding and formulating ways to make sure their plans would come to fruition. We think Ursula would particularly love to learn about Mim's shape-shifting powers, which would have definitely been of use in the Little Mermaid movie. While these villains may have failed independently, together they would be unstoppable. So long as Mim is okay going underwater, that is. But let us know in the comment section if you agree with our list, and tell us what we should cover next. Remember to hit that notification bell and binge more of our videos. But most importantly, stay wicked.